Welcome to Uncovered. It's Wednesday. I'm Anthony, he's Ron, and we're about to uncover the MAGA propaganda that's not covered by the mainstream and corporate media. So much is happening just in the last few days. We've got everything that you're thinking about, we're thinking about, and we'll get to. Let's start, though, with this housing bill, though, Ron. This is a bipartisan effort. Republicans and Democrats, for the first time in goodness knows how long, finally agreed that the U.S. housing stock needs a boost, and so these are policies designed to really kind of get the housing industry moving, subsidies and all sorts of interesting things. But it's been, the kibosh has been popped on it by the president. Tell us what's going on today.
I mean, this is really just a classic American bipartisan bill that has a bunch of things in it that Republicans like, a bunch of things in it that Democrats like. It was a compromise hammered out between the negotiators for each party to make it. It passed overwhelmingly. Only 5 senators voted against it. I think they were all Republicans, by the way, and like 20 representatives, something like 25 voted against it. Passed overwhelmingly. So this, of course, Republicans want to try as best that they can to take the affordability issue away from Democrats. They know that they've done nothing in that regard. And all the news from their side has been about, the SAVE Act and tax cuts and abolishing the IRS and the reflecting pool in Iran war. So they were desperate to have something to talk about, and they set up a stage at the Capitol. They had all the press there. They had the flags. Trump was supposed to go over there, and they were going to have a big bill signing. Mike Johnson was there. Thune was there. It was a big deal. All the House leadership was there. And literally while they're on the stage talking about how great this bill is going to be and how it's going to lower housing costs for Americans, a reporter says, we just got the word Trump is angry. He's throwing a temper tantrum. He's refusing to come over, and he won't sign the bill unless the Senate passes the SAVE Act.
Right.
So he's back obsessing on that, and he's linking that to the housing bill. So it was literally like the Republicans were up on stage going, "Oh, well, okay, let's forget the whole thing," and they just kind of slink off and start taking the stage apart.
Yeah, I know. He's throwing his toys out of the pram. I think this is probably more than just about the SAVE Act. I think this is probably him feeling lots of things about the reflecting pool, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and the Iran deal. I think he is damaged, and a damaged narcissist needs to kind of reassert their authority, and this is what he thinks he should be doing. I'll play the clip of Representative French Hill and everybody making this speech. Let me just ask you, we were fixing your camera beforehand, but I think you forgot to put your microphone in front of you, so do that.
Okay.
Gotcha. I'll play the clip. Here it is.
All right.
Off in New York or somewhere. It's a legitimate issue. And Tim Scott and I found a way to put that into law that, in our view, meets the president's test, but absolutely will not reduce capital flowing into housing, which has been my top goal. Lower the cost of housing, make it more affordable, more accessible, encourage the banks to lend more that have been shut down since the global financial crisis in 2008. And this bill does that. And so I'm proud of the work that both chambers struggled through. For those of you who cover this every day, the back and forth between the House and Senate. But it's a successful today, and I'm proud of the work of the House and Senate to get people to yes, and so I yield back.
Interesting. That was French
literally
Hill,
like
right?
2 minutes later, they get the word that Trump won't come. So, by the way, where are we at with this legally, legislatively? So the speaker has to sign it. The president pro temp has to sign it. Then it goes to the president's desk. If he takes no action, it becomes law. Assuming they sign it, I don't know that Mike Johnson is going to sign it.
Yeah.
And then if he vetoes it, of course, the votes are there right now to override the veto. So a lot of the congressional reporters are like, well, this is just all performative because they'll just override the veto. Well, not so fast. I mean, just because they voted for it before when Trump hadn't said anything doesn't mean they're going to vote to override his veto. And I think many of them will switch their votes if Trump is against it.
Oh. you expect a bipartisan bill in this way that has passed the House and passes the Senate to go to the president's desk, and it's not really for the president to scrutinize. It's just the protocol that he signs it, because he ain't the boss. Really, the Congress is the boss. Have I got that right? I mean, that's kind of the system. But now we have a guy who thinks that he is the boss. In fact, he said that to the G7 leaders, didn't he? I am the boss when he walked into the room. We're dealing with somebody here who has thrown the rule book out of the window and is holding the country hostage.
And of course, he's not running in the midterms. So, these Republicans are the ones who wanted to make this like their signature legislative achievement of 2026.
Yes.
Right? They don't want to run on just, we passed, a $1 trillion defense budget with $100 billion for the Iran war. They don't want to run on that.
No.
And so I think the other part of it, there's two other things going on besides just the SAVE Act. Like you said, I think that this was crafted by legislators, by Congress, and not his administration. It was one piece of legislation that the White House didn't drive it, didn't write it. So they were kind of left out of the process to some degree. That's part of it. But I also thought that Ted Lieu's comments were very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, he's saying that none of this has any rational basis. It goes directly to Trump's cognitive decline and his mania.
Yes, that's right. I'll show that clip in a minute. I want to show Steve Scalise first, because obviously the Democrats had something to say on this. French Hill, incidentally, who just spoke, who is running in Arkansas, and I just had Chris Jones on the weekend show, who is his Democratic opponent in November. So it's very interesting seeing him pushing, because he really needs this, doesn't he? I mean, this is the kind of stuff he runs on. All right, let's take a look at Steve Scalise.
To continue to see this drumbeat of Republicans focusing on helping make life more affordable for working families on every front. Chairman Hill just talked about it with the housing bill, a really important bill to lower housing costs. We delivered for American families. We did it.
Yeah. Well, they might not.
Apparently not.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. I'll show the Ted Lieu moment, because I agree. I mean, this is a cognitive issue. This is, as I said earlier, because the protocol is that the president must sign this type of legislation. He doesn't really get veto power in a regular administration, in an ordinary world. But we're living in an extraordinary world where he's choosing to veto it just because. Let's take a look.
Thank you, Chairman Aguilar. Inflation is up. Grocery prices are up. Utility costs are up. Housing prices are up. We have a bipartisan housing bill that both the Congress and Senate passed. There was supposed to be a big signing ceremony today in the Capitol, and then all of a sudden, Donald Trump decides he's not coming to sign the bill. Well, why is that? Did he wake up on the wrong side of the bed? Is he unable to stay awake today? What's causing him to chicken out again? Is it Taco Wednesday? Or is it side effects from a drug? We don't know. This erratic behavior of the president is very concerning. He has trouble staying awake at multiple White House events and cabinet meetings. He has clearly some weakness in one of his arms. He's got swelling in his hands. And the White House needs to come clean. What we know is there's a report saying that one person in America got this special new drug. It was a 79-year-old person who's very high profile, and this drug can only be given to someone under the compassionate use provision, meaning you do that if someone basically has a terminal illness. So we need to know, did Donald Trump get this special drug from Eli Lilly? And did he get it under that provision? And if he did, why is that the case?
I can't believe he's saying this stuff out loud. I mean, when I was reading about this theory a couple of days ago, I was thinking, is this mainstream knowledge? Like, well, now it is.
No, not really. Ted Lieu went full blue and on conspiracy, and I love it. I love it because I'm a blue and on conspiracy theorist a lot of the time. So, I thought that was great. And by the way, of all the things, a bunch of Democrats came out and gave statements, mocking what just happened today on the housing bill. But it was Ted Lieu's comment right there that set the White House off, because Steve Chung went after Ted for that statement and was furious and was calling him all kinds of names, the White House communication director. So that shows you that this strikes a nerve.
Yeah.
And basically, this conspiracy is that Eli Lilly they're testing this new drug that's sort of an alternative to Ozempic, which can help lose weight for people that have heart conditions or high risk older people.
Yeah, it's congenitive heart disease. And so the way to deal with it is to go through weight loss, which is one theory of how to deal with a heart condition in this way. Of course, the swollen ankles and there's that guy who's a therapist who goes on Instagram and TikTok and stuff, and he posts his videos about it. That's where I saw it initially. And he talks with a lot of authority. Obviously, we have to take it with a pinch of salt until it's confirmed, which it obviously never will be. But there's a lot of theories going on out there that Trump is much sicker than he lets on.
Oh, I believe that.
It is important, isn't it, to have knowledge. This is why the White House has a doctor in residence and who is supposed to be honest when he does the annual physicals or the biannual physicals as are happening at the moment. But we haven't had an honest doctor in the White House for a long time.
Yeah, that's true. And I have to say, by the way, there's plenty of smoking gun evidence that Trump was patient zero on this. Eli Lilly disclosed it was given to one person. Yeah. And that one person had to have special inside knowledge and pull because the public did not know about this at the time. That person was 79 years old. It was given last April. Trump praised Eli Lilly in a speech on May 1st. He also talked about how on that day when he was praising Eli Lilly, a friend of his who was overweight, who tried the fat drug, is what he said. And he said it didn't work. So, on that particular person. So Trump happened to be 79. He's talking about Eli Lilly and the fat drug right at the time that somebody got the special dispensation. The other thing is Trump got remember back during COVID, and when he got COVID, he used Regeneron before almost anybody else in America, before it had been approved.
Yeah.
He got access to the drug.
Yeah.
So we know that Trump experiments with different kind of medications. So there's a lot there that, Ted might be onto something. And the fact that the White House reacted so strongly to this also adds fuel to the fire.
I should also say that the little that I understand of it, that rich people, they don't go to emergency rooms. They don't go, make a doctor's appointment. They don't do that stuff. Rich people are always the first to get backdoor deliveries. And this happened during COVID in a big way.
Yep.
Of getting vaccines, of getting remedies, of getting the types of things that regular people have to get in line for.
Yep.
And this all tracks with Donald Trump. I'm sure it's something he's always done. I mean, the bone spurs is another example of this, right? It's like manipulating because he knew a doctor or his father knew a doctor or rented to a doctor and he signed it off. I think he wasn't even a doctor, that guy, was he? He was like an ophthalmologist or something. But the point is that they feel like it's like a godlike quality. Well, we know more than the doctors. We have the money, therefore we choose. I mean, you could argue that's what killed Michael Jackson, for example.
With Michael Jackson, we saw it with Prince, we saw it with Elon Musk and the ketamine and all that. Sure, they all get stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely a state of mind. But so here, just back to the housing bill, when you see these senior Republicans like Steve Scalise and Faith Hill in this case,
French Hill. Faith Hill is a singer.
Is a singer, I know. Yeah. I think I made that mistake on the weekend show when I was talking to Chris Jones, and I thought, I'll leave it in.
I'm just saving you from all the comments right now. Yeah.
I'll take it. It's hard doing stuff on the fly. People should try it. And I think I was just listening to Faith Hill, so maybe this is why it went wrong.
There you go.
That we are seeing like real governance going on the stage here from Republicans for the first time in forever, right? We've never seen them do a press conference announcing a policy. In fact, Republicans never announce policies. They deregulate things, they cancel things, but they never announce things. So maybe that's why it's such a curveball for Donald Trump.
There's some deregulation in this bill too. I mean, there's like it's deregulating a lot of the restrictions on new housing construction. So yeah, I mean, it's a classic bipartisan bill. There's stuff in it for both sides to like, both sides to hate, but I think the consensus is it's definitely going to help with housing costs in America.
Right.
I mean, one of the things that the Democrats put in there is that these big corporations can't keep buying up residential properties and renting them out as Airbnbs and stuff.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely a thing. Yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff in there. It's unbelievable that Donald Trump would be sitting here as the midterms are approaching, obsessing over the reflecting pool and everything else. And by the way, he doesn't show up for that bill signing, but he also had a luncheon scheduled with Republican senators at noon. And he did go to that because the guys were like, they were like, hey, is Trump going to show up for the Senate thing? I said, you're damn right he's going to show up for that. He will not skip that, because that whole purpose of that luncheon, he was invited by Rick Scott. It's right. John Thune's luncheon.
Yeah.
But Rick Scott, who, as we know, ran against John Thune for majority leader, is going to run against John Thune again next January with the new Congress, whether they're in the majority or minority. He's going to run against Thune again for leader. He backdoored Thune and invited Trump to their luncheon. And Trump went in there today. It was described as a very angry, confrontational meeting by reporters outside the room, where Trump was yelling at them. And reportedly, Bill Cassidy and Tom Tillis were yelling right back. And the whole purpose of that meeting was for Trump to yell at the senators for not passing the SAVE Act. And they were just telling him, we simply don't have the votes. There are 4 or 5 Republicans, senators who are voting against the SAVE Act, including Susan Collins. You know, it's the people that are up for re-election in tough states that aren't voting for it.
Yes. I promised a Democrat. Let's take a look at Maxwell Frost. He got up, didn't he? And he kind of showed the Republicans up. Let's take a look.
Did you do one of the John Travolta?
Oh, yeah. Let's go 1 second.
He's like, where is everyone?
Where's the president? You got the seal right there, the presidential seal on the podium, and all the flags. Yeah, so that was pretty funny. Frost, I'll show up.
Right.
And, he's like, where are the Republicans?
Let's take a look at the Truth Social post that Trump posted about this. He said, today's housing news conference and signing is hereby cancelled until such time as we pass the desperately needed Save America Act, which I consider to be a national emergency. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. Should be DVT, really, shouldn't it? We're dealing with a situation that I think is going to become more prevalent, where Trump either goes AWOL or goes nuts, or the wheels come off, or where just the traditions of playing the role of the president, because it's an acting job for him, he just can't keep up the pretense anymore. I think we're going to see a lot more of that. We'll talk about the reflecting pool next, but, arresting people for vandalism, a blatant falsehood, to me is another example of where he is backed so far into a corner, cannot take the criticism, cannot take the heat, so has to behave in a really unusual manner, or overtly unusual manner. That's not going to do the Republicans any good in the midterms, is it?
No, and the reflecting pool is very much a part of it. It's a good segue into that because, his behavior about that has been insane, just obsessive. You can ask him a question about almost any subject right now, reporters do, and he will veer off and start talking about the reflecting pool. He literally talks about it every single day, posts about it every single day for over a month now. And it's funny to hear some political commentators and reporters in DC say, this is ridiculous. Why does everybody, they're saying it like to Democrats. Why are Democrats so focused on the reflecting pool? It's like, whoa, wait a minute. We we didn't start this.
Yeah.
We didn't start the fire here. You know, we weren't the ones who keep talking about it. It's Trump that keeps bringing it up. It's Trump who's arresting people, putting up fences, arresting people for touching the water. This whole thing is a disaster, going way over budget, no bid contracts. There's just so much wrong with it. And it also demonstrates the mania and the cognitive decline and the insanity of this guy, that it's more than just a reflecting pool. It is
100%.
It is a bigger story that involves a lot more. And that's why I continue to write about it and talk about it. Because it's not just an inside baseball DC kind of thing.
No, it's massive. And I think the reason that it is such a touch point for him is because it comes under the banner of construction. And as we know, the only thing he's interested in is not people or even votes or humanity. It is simply construction. He grew up on the building sites with his father. It's in his blood, amongst other things. And he just thinks he is the authority. He knows more about pools. He's done more pools than anybody. That was his first mistake. Let's take a look.
Mr. President, reflecting pool, you mentioned yesterday that the Interior Department has video and photos. We reached out to them and they haven't shared it with us. Are you going to compel them to release
They've
it?
arrested, I think, 6 people on the reflecting pool. So the reflecting pool looks fantastic. I just got pictures of it. It's beautiful. But somebody went in with a knife and cut it. They cut it up good. And then they cut a 350-foot slip in the form of lots of little slips, real horrible stuff, and they destroyed the grass. We put a brand new big load of grass out there. They destroyed it. So it's all being fixed, but it's a shame. So I understand 5 or 6 people are arrested. The Interior Department can refer to you on that. And I hear they have 6 people under investigation.
Yeah. We've scapegoated half a dozen American citizens. Their lives are never going to be the same. They're going to have criminal records, but that doesn't matter, even though they either just put their hand in the water or they were taking photos of it. I mean, this is, and I always do this, don't they? I'm ringing the bell for authoritarianism. This is an authoritarian government arresting people for just going about their business.
Yeah, for doing nothing, because Trump needs to blame somebody for this besides himself. There's no possible way he's ever going to admit that he caused this, that this is a disaster, that the fact that he hired one of his political donors who remodeled or put in a pool for him at his Virginia golf course, hired him with a no bid contract to go do the reflecting pool where he had zero experience. And by the way, that guy donated $250,000 to Trump's campaign PAC, which is how he got this contract. And so Trump doesn't want to admit that. So he has to blame somebody else. So he comes up with these preposterous conspiracy theories. And by the way, go back to the question that was asked. The question was, there are surveillance cameras all around this area. Every monument in DC has surveillance cameras on it. The reporter said multiple media outlets have requested the footage, camera footage from the Department of the Interior of the reflecting pool showing anyone vandalizing this pool. You've arrested 6 people. You said you got 6 more people under investigation. You claim that somebody went into the pool and cut a 250 to 350 foot gash. That number changes constantly.
Yep.
Clearly, there must be video evidence. There must be a witness. There must be someone who saw this or on camera. And we keep requesting footage, and the Department of Interior is ignoring us, will not give us anything. And what does Trump do? He blows that off. He ignores that and just starts talking about people who are arrested. The people who are arrested did nothing. They either touched the water or they picked up a piece of debris that was floating. Not one of them actually caused any damage to this pool. He claims that somebody dumped fertilizer into the pool, and that is what caused the algae. They haven't arrested anybody for that. They have no witness to that. When he says somebody damaged the grass, what he's talking about is somebody carved in the grass nearby 8647. So he's all worked up about that too.
Yeah, it was probably James Comey that did that.
Again,
Let's take a look at Caroline Levitt telling lies for the president.
All right, Caroline, any more details on the 5 people that have been arrested regarding vandalism here?
The vandalism is very real, despite what Tim Walz wants to say. It's an imaginary problem. No, it is not. It's a very real problem. In fact, I spoke with the National Park Service just before joining the show. They now have 17 police reports that have been filed in just the matter of a few days. There's actually been 6 arrests at the reflecting pool, where, again, these deranged individuals, many of them longtime donors to the Democrat Party, to Barack Obama, to Act Blue, that have been vandalizing and desecrating our federal monument, one of the most beautiful monuments in the world, the reflecting pool. And that's why President Trump is not going to stop with this effort. We're going to not only hold those people accountable, but we're going to fix the pool, continue to make it beautiful from this despicable vandalism, just in time to celebrate our nation's 250th birthday next week.
Didn't Jeanine Pirro say she was going to make an example of these people as well with sentencing and stuff? I mean,
yeah, that'll be. I guarantee you, not one person will be convicted of this. This is going to be just like the guy who threw the sandwich at the ICE officer.
Yes,
she's on one hell of a losing streak.
Yes.
By the way, that was Caroline Levitt's first day back from her second maternity leave, and there she is, immediately jumping into lying propaganda on Sean Hannity's show. A couple other things that I find interesting about this. First of all, when this story first happened, with the reflecting pool and the algae and all that, it was just a handful of independent reporters, DC people who go around filming different stuff, people who filmed J6 and different things. They were the ones covering this. And those of us on social media were blowing it up and writing about it. And then, only then did mainstream media decide, oh, people seem to care about this. And then they kind of went down to the pool and started covering it. So this was a story that was driven by independent media again. Yes. Second thing I'll say, 3 observations. Second one is I have quoted and put in my Substacks every day lots of experts in this kind of stuff, in the finishing that was done, the chemicals, and they all said that this was done wrong.
Yeah,
it was filled up too soon.
Yeah,
the process that was done was a disaster. I mean, I'm not a pool guy, but I printed all these guys and their statements, and they're all fairly consistent on their criticisms of the way this was done. So clearly, this was a problem with the job. Second of all, they also noted that Trump took his 80,000 pound, massive motorcade and drove it through the middle of this thing before the stuff was even set properly.
Was that real? Because I thought that was AI when I saw that, and I was like, "There's no way you would drive these SUVs, right?"
So it just so happens there's this big long slit through the material, and what a lot of these guys are saying is that his vehicle caused that.
So
because he drove over it before it was finished.
I mean, this is the tragedy of this story.
Why did he need to drive through it?
Well, because he wanted to get close, but he's too scared to go out in public these days because he's worried about getting shot.
Well, remember, they cleared everybody out of the area. For a half-mile radius around the reflecting pond, every single American citizen, every single person was cleared out of the area for 2 hours before.
How do they drive into it? Did they build a ramp?
Secure the area so he could drive through the pool, which is likely what caused the damage.
Well, he is describing a 350-foot gash that can only be done by a vehicle. It can't be done by a human.
What is he saying? Somebody dove into the pool with a box cutter. He mentioned a box cutter one time and dove under there and sliced it up with a box cutter.
I was actually surprised.
No one saw him. There's no witnesses and there's no video. That's his story.
Does it not frustrate you that when the media are asking him these questions, and this really is the difference between us in independent media and corporate media, and European media is so much more similar to independent media in the US, is that instead of asking him the question, obviously this wasn't vandalized, obviously you're saying this to distract, and obviously you need to tell us the truth, they kind of dance around it. It's like everyone is terrified of holding anybody to account in this country. And it really drives me mad because it is so obvious to anybody who lives in reality that he's lying.
Because the follow-up is, you keep talking about the number of people that have been arrested. What specifically did any of those individuals do that caused damage to the pool?
Yeah.
Because the people that were arrested did nothing. They just put their hands in there. They just picked things up. They didn't dump anything in, and they didn't damage anything.
It's their pool, Ron. It's their pool.
It's not a crime to put your hand in the water of the reflecting pool. That's not a crime.
If you're a citizen, it belongs to you. You know,
the federal vandalism statute says damage, destroy, or deface, meaning like putting graffiti on it.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, none of those people that they arrested are going to be convicted.
No, but it's still going to ruin their lives, if not ruin their month. And this, it has nothing to do with them. Let's take a look at David Hearn, who is one of these people who was arrested just for testing the water.
I was just out on about a 50-mile bike ride, and I decided to swing back over by the reflecting pool on my way back as a concerned, curious citizen.
And you checked out the pool. You told the AP that you just put your hand in the water. And then what happened? You had, I've seen like National Guardsmen came up to you and then park police. How did that all go down?
As soon as I left the side of the reflecting pool and went back to my bike that was laid down on its side on the edge of the grass, 3 National Guard troops sort of materialized and started talking to me about, after I greeted them, they were talking to me about the park police wanting to talk to me.
And they arrested you? They put some sort of cuffs or zip ties on you behind your back?
Yeah, I didn't think I'd done anything wrong, so I had no reason to think I was going to be arrested, but I suggested we walk over toward the park police rather than waiting for them to come to us, and went over and furnished my ID, and kind of before I knew it, I was being handcuffed and realized I was being arrested.
I mean, it is a sad day for democracy that people are being scapegoated in this way. I mean, that guy is devastated, clearly. He talks about himself as a citizen, proud American.
No criminal record.
No.
67 years old, 3-time Olympian.
Yes, I know.
He was an Olympian whitewater canoe competitor, had just finished doing a 52-mile bike ride. He said he had his bicycle with him. So this is a guy who's going to vandalize the reflecting pool at the end of his 52-mile bike ride. By the way, that must be the key, because he didn't look 67 to me. Maybe we need to start doing 50-mile bike rides, man. That guy looks 50, so, but yeah, you're right. I mean, these people are getting arrested for no reason, because to cover up, to provide a cover story for Donald Trump's incompetence and corruption.
Yes.
That's why these people are being arrested, and it's a damn shame. Yeah.
It's also a dictatorship when stuff like that happens. And I often call into question whether it's right to keep referring to it as an authoritarian government and being in a dictatorship. But when he does things like this, to me, it reaffirms that he's very proud of it. I mean, didn't someone give him an article the other day about all these dictators from history, and he very proudly accepted his name up there as being somebody who was akin with Hitler and Mao and all of these people. I mean, the guy lives for this stuff. Arresting people for nothing is part of, he enjoys that as part of his role. And that, I think, is going to be his undoing if he carries on like this. Tom Tillis, Republican senator, had something to say about it.
Freaking parallel universe that I just wake up in. You're telling me, even if it proves to be true, that damaging a lining in the reflecting pool is something that Puro wants to prosecute to the full extent of the law, if it's proven true, and yet they're releasing people who pled guilty to assaulting a police officer?
I mean, they're doing all the work for us now, aren't they?
It's because Trump keeps saying that he wants these people to get 10 years in prison.
Yeah.
You know, that guy, the guy Hearn who stuck his hand in the pool,
Yeah.
you know, he wants him to get 10 years in prison. So that's what Tillis is saying. He's like, wait a minute. You just let out of prison all these people who beat up cops, but he wants to put people in prison for 10 years for touching the pool water? I mean, seems kind of out of whack.
I get a feeling that this is going to cause factions in the Republican Party, because you simply cannot excuse the kind of behavior of the president in this way, denying something that we see with our own eyes. I mean, it happened with Renee Good, you know, when they were describing something very different to what we were looking at on video. And that really was the start of this weird kind of Twilight Zone moment where you were just like, hang on a second, they want us to believe them over our own eyes and ears. And this, I think, is going to keep happening as Trump is backed into a corner. But, you know, statistically, these narcissists will behave worse and become more abusive and more aggressive when they have no place to turn.
Yep. And I think that this goes back to the cognitive decline. It all plays into that. The megalomania, the cognitive decline, the refusal to admit mistakes.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this in the context of the midterms again and his obsession with the SAVE Act today. Because is there any scenario where if Democrats win the House or even the Senate, you know, which would be incredible, that he will accept the election results and let it go and not try and overturn or challenge them or do something? I predict right now, we are in for one hell of a November and December, just like 2020. It's going to be just like 2020 all over again. It's going to be an absolute nightmare. Audits, lawsuits.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah. Well, I've been saying this for weeks. Can you imagine him calling, you know, accepting defeat in 2028 and phoning a Democratic incumbent and saying, you know, I congratulate you on your win and I'll be moving out next week?
Yeah, and
it's
recognizing that person won, that'll never happen.
Never going to happen. And so we are now dealing with a situation where Trump's reality is not America's reality, and that is going to cause, I think, I'm hoping, because you know the biggest problem I think for this country in the last 18 months has been Republicans keeping quiet and sitting behind Trump and basically doing his bidding on every turn. They have the ability to call him out. They have the ability to remove him. They have the ability to put the country back on track. And they all know what's going on. It's not like they're blind to it. They all know. They talk about it behind the scenes, but they just, as you've described many times on the show, they only care about themselves, enriching themselves and their own careers. And, you know, that's why, I mean, look, in the UK, we've just had this incredible moment where Keir Starmer just, you know, resigned because of public pressure. And then he goes, I have heard your feelings. I hear you. So I'm out. And the next guy who's coming in has my full support. And I'm so proud of that, because that peaceful transfer of power has eluded the United States for a while now, and it is the backbone of democracy. And to see it happening with humility and genuinely putting the country first, we really need to take a leaf, not necessarily out of a parliamentary system, it's different, but to recognize that that's what a functioning democracy looks like.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Joe Biden did. He handed over he handed over the reins of the government. He didn't try and question the legitimacy of the election or anything like that. Neither did Kamala Harris. So, yeah, there's only one side that's playing fair by the rules right now. What'll be interesting is, you know, assuming like a J.D. Vance is the nominee or a Marco Rubio, and they're the ones who lose the election, if Trump is running around saying it was stolen and all that, is Vance or Rubio going to go along with that program and claim that it was stolen and go against Trump on that point? That's going to be really interesting to find out, but that's a ways off.
But J.D. Vance said a couple of days ago that Donald Trump might have the highest IQ of any president who's ever lived. So with that in mind,
I think
he's right behind him.
Vance is a little worried about Marco Rubio right now.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see that a lot more with him going out of his way to praise Trump a lot more than he has in the past, because I think he's very concerned that Trump is not necessarily going to back him, in 2028.
Tucker Carlson announced that he was done with all of this, especially with the US over Iran and everything else. We'll talk about Iran after the break, but I want to play this Tucker Carlson clip of him, after all these years, finally realizing that he might be on the wrong team.
I would not support the Republican Party. There's no chance I would support the Republican Party. I'm not going to support the Democratic Party. I don't know what I'm going to do. But at this point, how could I or any American voter support a political party that's not loyal to the United States, that puts the interests of a foreign country above those of its own citizens? Like, it's not possible to vote for people like that, and I'm not going to. And I think I voted Republican my entire life. I worked at Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. I've been a consistent defender for 35 years of the Republican Party. I mean, very consistent defender. But there's no defending this because it's immoral, and it's exactly the opposite of what a political party in a democracy is charged with doing, which is representing its own voters, its own citizens, its own nation. And they're not doing that. So no, I'm out.
I'm out. Sagar.
He's out.
What do you think?
Well, MTG backed him up. Tucker is not the only one done supporting the Republican Party. There's a lot of us that are absolutely fed up and will not support a party that betrays its voters and its country. Anybody with open eyes knew Miriam Adelson had given Trump $100 million. The balance of power is overwhelmingly on behalf of the Israel lobby. If you are taking Adelson money, if these people are a party or coalition, I cannot be part of that. Like, you're either in or you're out. The voters are on the outside.
So this isn't, as I see it, this is not just about Israel, but actually this extends to domestic issues as well. It's also about Iran and the Iran deal. We'll talk about that after the break. But I recognize that this is the early signs of the paint starting to peel in this perfect White House.
Yeah, remember I said I've said for years, there's not going to be, and I've been asked this question by millions, lots of people. Every time I do interviews for other podcasts, they always ask me, like, how is MAGA going to end? And I always say the same thing. It's sort of like a thread being pulled out of a sweater or a quilt, and it's just going to unravel slowly, piece by piece, or like a puzzle where you're pulling one piece out at a time.
Yeah.
It's not going to be any one big thing that's going to cause everything to explode, but it's going to happen gradually, and it is happening. We saw it with Green and Massey. And now, I mean, Tucker Carlson, I mean,
It's a big one.
You can't get more Republican than Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
And I thought I did see a few Republican commentators say, this doesn't matter. Tucker's nobody. He doesn't have as big of an audience anymore. That's totally false. He has a massive audience for his YouTube show, arguably a bigger one than he had on Fox. So just because he's not on network television where, the boomers are watching him on Fox, doesn't mean he doesn't still have a massive audience. And the thing is, his audience is a younger audience too. And a lot of the young men who really are strong, have been strong backing the Republican Party, are the ones that are pulling away from it now. And Tucker is a big part of that. So I think that this is definitely something that's going to hurt. And again, these people know they're not going to become Democrats, but the Democratic Party has experienced this when voters don't show up for whatever reason or back a third party candidate. We've seen it with a Ralph Nader, Jill Stein, multiple different situations where a small number of Democrats didn't vote for their nominee, and it cost them the election in a lot of these close swing states. And that's what's going to happen again if these people stay home. And for Tucker Carlson, who's about the most Republican person that you can think of, to come out and say this, and I honestly think, like, if people like Ronald Reagan or John McCain were alive today, they'd be saying some of these same exact things about the current Republican Party.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that long ago that on Fox, Tucker was making propaganda videos for Russia. Do you remember when he went down into the subway and was saying, look at the most beautiful trains, if only we had this in America, and then in grocery stores, and talking about Russia like it was, a far superior place, and that Americans don't know, what they're missing. I don't trust him any further than I could throw him. No. So, I think he is a little bit of a red herring, and he's obviously on some other train. I'm not sure. But what it suggests to me is that Democrats need to recognize that there's going to be a lot of Republicans in the forthcoming midterms and the general who are looking to place their vote somewhere other than in the Republican box. And consequently, they need to offer Republicans a safe and soft place to land. And do you think there's Democrats that recognize that there will be this kind of overflow, and that really the Democratic Party could do itself a favor by presenting itself not necessarily as, the polar opposite, but somewhere that puts the country first and is far more patriotic than Donald Trump ever has been?
It's hard if you're saying, like, are there any Democratic candidates out there maybe can attract some of these voters?
Because it's a problem if Republicans aren't going to vote. That's one thing. Yeah. But to get them to actually vote for Democrats is such a stretch.
Honestly, I think that the only people who can do it are like the DSA Mamdani people.
Right.
Because there is a lot of common ground between that group of Democrats, and more so than the Democratic moderate establishment. There's a lot more common ground on different issues, and especially the Israel issue and the Epstein issue and things like that. I think some of those candidates, actually the more progressive candidates, are the ones that are oddly enough likely to attract some of those disaffected Republican voters, more so than like a Schumer or a Cory Booker or something like that.
I agree.
I think they're more attracted to a Mamdani than they are to them.
Well, because they're authentic and they're not bought and paid for. And at the end of the day, we know that the kind of white working class people have been voting for the wrong team for years because their dissatisfaction or disaffection or dispossession, there's a lot of anger. You've got to blame someone, you blame immigrants, and so you vote for the far right party. But actually the policies that would benefit them are the Mamdanis and the left-leaning, dare I say, socialist style policies.
Who are upset about money going to Israel. They're upset about the data centers. They're upset about inflation and affordability and housing. And I think like a Tallarico is speaking directly to a lot of those voters, So Democrats have to try and engage with them and not give up on those people.
I want to talk about the Iran not deal. We'll do that in just a moment. We also should celebrate Mamdani's support of Democratic candidates in New York State as well. We'll do that and a whole lot more on Uncovered next. Let's talk about the morning routine. You've probably heard people buzzing about mushroom coffee or mud water lately. Honestly, I was super skeptical at first, but I've been drinking their original blend instead of my usual second cup of coffee, and it's genuinely changed my mornings. I used to get that midday caffeine crash and the total jittery anxiety spiral, but this gives me that warm, grounding morning ritual with none of the jitters. If you want to cut back on caffeine, Mud Water is a coffee alternative made with organic ingredients, functional mushrooms, and adaptogens. It has about 1/7 of the caffeine of a regular cup of coffee, so you get sharp focus and sustained energy all day. I love the OG blend. It tastes like a spicy, healthy hot cocoa. And look, if you want to try it, the starter kit is the absolute best way to go. It comes with a full-size tin of your blend, a free rechargeable frother, free samples, and free shipping. Ready to make the switch to cleaner energy? Go to mudwater.com/uncovered right now and grab the starter kit. Make sure you use code UNCOVERED at checkout to get up to 43% off your order. Seriously, the free frother alone makes it worth it. That's up to 43% off with code UNCOVERED at mudwtr.com. Oh, and when you check out, they'll ask how you heard about them. Make sure to select our show so they know we sent you. You've got weight loss goals, but actually sticking to them, that's where things get tough. Between busy schedules, confusing advice, and plans that just don't last, it can feel like you're spinning your wheels. That's why more people are turning to Weight Loss by Hims. It's a modern, personalized approach designed to help you lose the weight and keep it off. With Wegovy at Hims, lose up to 20% or more of your body weight when combined with diet and exercise. It helps you regulate your appetite and eat less, so success is within reach. Plus, Wegovy is the first ever GLP-1 pill for weight loss, so there are no needles needed. Through Hims, everything happens online. You'll connect with a licensed provider who will determine if treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your medication is delivered right to your door, no insurance necessary. And it doesn't stop there. Hims makes hitting your goals seamless by offering access to 24/7 messaging with your care team and in-app lifestyle and nutrition support, like recipes, meal plans, fitness videos, sleep content, and more. Even better, with a range of affordable GLP-1 options, Hims makes it simple to find a weight loss approach that fits into your world and your wallet, if eligible. You'll get a treatment plan personalized to you and unlimited dosage changes as needed. Ready to reach your goals? Visit hims.com/uncovered to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's HIMS.com/uncovered. hims.com/uncovered. Weight Loss by Hims is not available in all 50 states. Wegovy is the registered trademark of Novo Nordisk AS. To get started and learn more, including important safety information, Wegovy clinical study information and restrictions, visit hims.com. And you can find links to our sponsors in the description below. Okay, Ron, let's jump on Iran very quickly, because this elusive deal, I mean, is the Strait of Hormuz even open? I think it's still closed, isn't it? I mean, nobody really knows. But the Iranians are holding all the cards, if you'd pardon the expression. Trump is furious about the way this has played out. I think he's furious with J.D. Vance. He's furious with the media coverage of it. And he posted to confirm his fury, despite their protestations and false statements to the contrary, coupled with the drumbeat of the fake news, which is doing everything possible to make the U.S. victory as small and insignificant as possible. Iran has fully and completely agreed to highest-level nuclear inspections long into the future infinity. This will ensure nuclear honesty. If they did not agree to this, there will be no further negotiations. Based on this and other major concessions being made by Iran, I have agreed to allow the Hormuz Strait to reopen, or to remain open, with no further naval blockade. However, all ships are remaining in place should it be necessary to reinstitute the blockade, which seems, at this point, highly unlikely. All right, I'll give it a rest there, because it's just too much bull crap. He doesn't like the way that this has been covered. I mean, there's been a lot of Democratic talk. You know, there's one senator in particular who kind of came forward and explained piece by piece why this Iran deal is far worse than Obama's Iran nuclear deal. And Trump's not happy about that.
The deal is a disaster. It's an absolute unmitigated disaster. And I'm not just basing that on what Iran is saying. I'm basing that on everything that is taking place right now. So what happens is you got Vance goes over there with Kushner, with Witkoff.
Yeah.
One of the first criticisms that was made by the Europeans was there's no nuclear experts. There's no one with the IAEA as part of the American negotiating team. There's no one that knows anything about the Iranian nuclear sites there. That turned out to be a problem, because what J.D. Vance admitted was when they tried to discuss some of those issues, they had and Iran started talking specifics, they had no one on their team who knew anything. And so he said that they were at 2:00 in the morning frantically trying to get a hold of, on the phone, nuclear experts that they could consult. I mean, that's just asinine for us to not have anybody on our team that knows anything about the Iran nuclear program.
Well, they fired everyone, didn't they?
Then you have, as they were about to begin negotiations, Trump posts on Truth. Trump gave an interview to Fox early in the morning, hours before the negotiations were supposed to begin, where he threatened Iran and threatened to resume bombing if they didn't agree to all of their demands. So you have the Iranian negotiators show up and refuse to shake J.D. Vance's hand, or Kushner, refused to pose for a photo op with them, blew them off.
Yes.
Then walked out of the negotiations and refused to continue. They refused to meet face to face with the Americans later that day or the following day, and would only meet with representatives of Pakistan and Qatar. And so the only people that the Iranians spoke to were Qataris and Pakistanis. They did not speak at all face to face with any Americans. Then you have Vance come out and declare victory and claim, oh, Iran has agreed to allow full nuclear inspectors in. And you immediately have Bessent lifting all sanctions on Iranian oil. Iran immediately sends all of their tankers out of the Strait of Hormuz. Is it open? Yes, it's open for Iran. And they immediately sent their entire fleet of oil tankers to India and China, which they're going to make buku money.
Yes.
$12 billion in frozen assets that was in the Middle East were immediately unfrozen that Iran got access to. Vance claimed, oh, they're going to use that money to buy food from American farmers. So this is going to help American farmers. And the Iranians were like, no, we're not. This deal, we never, ever discussed how we were going to spend this money. You think that Iran is going to take all of these $1 billion in unfrozen assets and send it to the United States, to American farmers? I mean, that's just utterly ridiculous. So Trump is claiming that this money that's being unfrozen is all going to be put in an escrow account, and Trump is going to control it and insist that it be used to buy American soybeans. And the Iranians are like, that's not in the deal. It's a total surrender where Trump is trying to spin this to the American audience through Fox and Newsmax to try and claim that he got all these great concessions. And the last thing I'll say is, as far as the inspectors go, look, the devil is in the details when it comes to the inspectors.
Yes.
Only time that we had real inspections was during the Obama deal. We haven't really had real international inspectors. When I say real, I mean full access to all of their sites since 2018. That was the last time that there have been international inspectors that have been allowed to go into Iran, but Iran doesn't allow them to go to certain sites at certain times and doesn't allow them to do certain things. That's the key. And as part of this deal, none of those things have been agreed to in detail. This is just a disaster. It's a surrender. It's going to help. Iran is going to have a windfall of money to rebuild their military. Their missile launching systems remain intact. They still possess their uranium, their enriched uranium. There's no deal as far as them being required to hand that over. I don't know how any thinking, even Republican person can even try and remotely spin this as a win for the United States.
Let's take a look.
Trump posted on Truth Social this morning saying, in part, if they did not agree to this, there would be no further negotiations. Well, the Iranians today are going on the record saying they did not agree to this point. Take a listen.
We neither had a meeting with the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, nor do we have any plan for the agency to inspect Iran's nuclear facilities damaged as a result of the U.S. military aggression and the Zionist regime. Fundamentally, there is no procedure in this regard.
I just want to talk about Trump rewriting history. And again, I think this is a failure of the mainstream and corporate media. We hear him say time and time again, the Obama's deal was a terrible deal. It was one of the worst deals. And it expired. And, and then the media talks about him tearing it up, which is metaphorical, obviously. But it's almost as if the media didn't bother to read the original Iran deal, because then they would come to this in a position of authority where they can say specifically, but actually the Iran deal did all of the things that you're now trying to get Iran to agree to again. Because Iran, even though the deal was due to expire, were willing to agree to its extension. That seems to be completely left out of any media coverage or journalistic coverage, because this is Trump tearing up agreements that had Obama's name on them, and I include the Paris Climate Accord. I include, if he could, the Affordable Care Act, but he couldn't replace it, so he wasn't able to. But, this is just pure selfishness. It's nothing to do with what was in it, because, of course, Trump never read it, because he doesn't read. So he's effectively having to negotiate something that he doesn't know the starting point at which the last deal was left over at. So to him, in his crazy parallel reality, that this might be a better deal because he's got no point of reference.
It was a signature achievement of the Obama administration that he used as part of his campaign, and just said, this is a terrible deal. I'll negotiate a better one.
Yeah.
And I won't ever give them any money. I'll give them nothing. It's sort of the same thing how he said he was going to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. I can't tell you what my plan is. It's a secret plan, but I guarantee you I know just what to say to make them do what I want.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen in term one, and it hasn't happened in term two. So he started bombing, and here we are. Look, the Obama deal was $1.7 billion in and that includes interest, by the way, in unfrozen assets that the United States had been holding on to since 1979.
Yeah.
When we returned their own money to them that we had been holding on to for 40 years. This deal is far worse, lifting all sanctions on Iranian oil, giving them unfreezing $30 billion in frozen assets. $12 billion has already been unfrozen before Iran has agreed to do anything. Iran has done nothing other than make promises and sign a piece of paper. And they have already had sanctions lifted on their oil and already received $12 billion in unfrozen assets. Plus, we have agreed to provide them a total of $300 billion in reconstruction costs, which is supposedly going to come from Arab countries. And I'll believe that when I see it, that Arab countries are going to spend $300 billion to help Iran. That's never going to happen either. So then when that doesn't happen, Iran will simply claim that the U.S. reneged on the agreement and all bets are off. And by that time, they will have completely rebuilt whatever destruction that was caused by the U.S. military, and the U.S. military will be in way worse position. Trump has put us in a far worse position than we were in before he started bombing.
Well, Iran was relatively dormant prior to him going to war, comparatively. If you consider where we're at now, with the loss of life. I mean, for me, it ended with the girls' school bombing on day 2. I mean, for me, that was where the line should have been drawn and the war should have been over.
By the way, Trump was asked about that again today.
Yeah.
What's going on with the investigation?
Right.
When are we going to get any? You said that this is being investigated. When is that? And we know what happened. We know what happened is Elon Musk's Grok AI was used to do the targeting and screwed up. That apparently is what happened, okay? All based on all the reporting. So Trump was asked about it again today, and he said, we're still waiting for that investigation to be done. And he said, this is so messed. We might never know exactly what happened. That's what he said today.
Yeah. The knock-on effect of this war has ricocheted around the world with a global energy crisis. And I mean, I went on a British network a couple of days ago and they said to me, do you think that this agreement that they have means that energy prices are going to drop and that gas prices are going to go back to... And I was like, of course not. Why are you even asking this question? Like, don't fall for the fact that just because Trump tells you that a deal has been done, that a deal has been done. The timing was all about him doing it on his birthday. There is absolutely no weight to this.
The interesting thing about that is this morning he put out a True Social threatening oil companies. He's claiming, sounding like a Democrat now, he's claiming that oil companies are price gouging and that they're not lowering prices fast enough at the gas pumps, which I found was very funny because Joe Biden kind of said some of the same things after Russia invaded Ukraine. That the oil companies were
because they are.
gouging.
I mean, that is true. But what's he going to do? Take them into public ownership?
He's threatening them. Yeah, he's threatening. I don't know what he's going to do, but he's definitely. But these are his boys. I mean, the oil company execs, they all contributed to the Trump campaign. They all gave millions of dollars to his PACs. I mean, he's 100% in bed with the oil company. So it's kind of funny that he's now blaming them for the high price of I guess he thought like as soon as the war is over and stop bombing, gas was going to be $2 a gallon overnight again. He doesn't understand how the world works.
Well, apparently he's out of patience, and they wheeled out Mike Pence to agree or nod along to this. Let's take a look.
With our CIA director, John Ratcliffe. I've seen his patience run out with me on the golf course. I don't know if you've ever seen his patience run out, but that is not something the Iranians, I think, want to see. Mr. Vice President, thank you for your service. I love service.
That's such a funny question to ask Mike Pence. Have you ever seen Trump's patience run out? Are you kidding? There's ketchup all over Mike Pence.
Mike Pence, you've probably never seen his patience run out, but I have on the golf course. And let me tell you, you don't want to see that Donald Trump.
No.
You don't want to see that side of Donald Trump, Mike Pence.
No.
Because I saw him on the 16th hole after he missed a putt, and he was hopping mad.
Never mind the
Pence
fact
is
that
sitting there like,
never mind the fact that Trump sent his people to go hang Mike Pence.
Trump wanted me hung. You know what I mean?
Right.
They had a scaffold set up for me. Pence wouldn't even answer the phone from Donald Trump and wouldn't even get in the Secret Service limo because he thought that Trump was going to whisk him off to some place to have him assassinated or something. So that's kind of funny, typical Foxo's former Congressman Trey Gowdy saying something stupid.
Can we talk about this aeroplane for a minute? This new interim Air Force One. It's a 747-8 bridge aircraft, they're calling it. Now, I trained as a pilot. I don't know if you know that, but I trained as a pilot, and I do have a unhealthy interest in aircraft. So I just want to tell people the story.
I knew that.
Right. Well, there you go. I just want to tell people the story of what the Air Force One chronology, and that is that the two planes that they currently have, and of course they always need two. One is sometimes used as a decoy. It's also used as a spare, blah, 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 right? So the two planes they have are from the 90s. This was George Sr. who basically brought those in. And Trump has never liked them because he likes shiny new things, and these are old planes. So when in his first term, he decided that the contract that had already been agreed with Boeing to build two new 747s was too expensive, and he found these two Russian 747 passenger jets from a Russian airline that had gone bust and had never taken delivery of these two planes. They were just painted white, and they were sitting at Boeing, and they weren't doing anything. So he cut a deal to buy them for like half the price of the contract that Boeing had agreed to make two fresh Air Force Ones. Except the Air Force One is a military aircraft. It's not a passenger jet. So it has to be built from the ground up as a military aircraft, albeit with seats and an office and a bedroom and all that stuff. So pay cheap, pay twice. So do you remember he was lauding this amazing deal because he's got these two planes.
Bragging about it all the time.
Right. Yep. He didn't mention they were Russian jets, but there we go. And of course, the cost of converting those into Air Force Ones has ballooned way higher than if he'd have stuck with the original contract. This is starting to sound like the reflecting pool, isn't it? If he'd have stuck with the original contract where Boeing could have built two military Air Force Ones from the ground up. So the cost has gone so high and the delays are so high, and they're in legal battles about, delivery times and everything. In the meantime, Qatar offers him, I think he saw that this 747 was for sale. Maybe, I don't know if he started it, but they've been trying to sell this 747 for a while.
Yeah, they actually had it flown to like Palm Beach Airport so he could see it.
Right.
Yeah, they kind of like dangled it in front of him.
Yeah. So and this is like, dangling a shiny object in front of Trump. And of course, so somehow Donald Trump has managed to convince the military to spend millions of dollars, nearly $1 billion, I think, converting this 747 passenger jet, which is like a private jet that Qatar had, into an interim Air Force One because he can't wait 2 more years for the 2 that are on order at enormous cost to the taxpayer. And he's painted it in the colors that he likes because, of course, he doesn't like the old blue color. And
that was designed by John F. Kennedy.
John F. Kennedy's wife, I think, designed it, wasn't it? Yes. And so we're dealing with a man here who is costing the public purse, just through this jumbo vanity project, more money than you can even dream of. And to him, it's perfectly acceptable and normal. I mean, this is another reason for Republicans to desert Donald Trump, in my opinion. And, the more he does this stuff, the further he segregates himself from regular people, his base.
So, yeah, obviously, he comes into office this term and he's told that those other jets are not going to come online until 2028, which is when he's about to leave the presidency. And how much that bothered him. The idea that the brand new Air Force One jets, state-of-the-art, spanking brand new, were going to come online in time for the next president, which could be, a Democrat.
Yeah.
That really bothered him.
Yeah.
So he had to have something now for himself. And the only way he was going to get something was this kind of a deal. So I think if he had just done this, accepted the Qatar jet as the new Air Force One, spent all the taxpayer money, people would have grumbled and griped about it and complained about it, but it wouldn't have been as big of a story had not Trump taken it to the next level, which is to try and keep it when he leaves office, because that's when it will no longer be needed as Air Force One.
Well, that's what he wants, right? That's the whole point of this.
And he claims that it's going to be parked in his library. So you're going to take this brand new jet, which as far as being outfitted, that the U.S. taxpayers have just put nearly $1 billion in to make it a state-of-the-art. And we're supposed to believe that he's going to mothball this thing, never fly it again, stick it on the ground floor of a skyscraper in Miami Beach, and that's where it's going to stay. And he's never going to use it again. I don't think anyone believes that. This guy's going to walk away with well over $1 billion worth of aircraft, most of which was paid for by U.S. taxpayers and a foreign government. Blatantly illegal. And so I think what a lot of people in this audience and a lot of people, especially Democrats, want to know is, how can this be stopped? Clearly we can't stop him from using this as an Air Force One right now, but how can we stop the transfer of this jet to the library? And I know that Raskin is already sort of, as the judiciary, will most likely be the Judiciary Committee chairman next year, when Democrats take the majority, is already looking at ways, of course, as a constitutional scholar, to prevent this from happening.
Let's take a look.
Does Donald Trump get to keep this Qatari jet after the presidency?
No, he does not. You know why? Because the Constitution says he can't do it. Because the Constitution says that that the president may not receive a present, an emolument, which means a payment, an office or title of any kind, whatever, from a king, a prince, or a foreign state without the consent of Congress. And Congress has not consented to him keeping a $400 million jet. So it's got to be turned over immediately to the Congress for our disposition. And we can either send it back to the people in Qatar, or we can keep it and do something different with it. But it doesn't belong to the president. Abraham Lincoln, in the middle of the Civil War, wanted to keep some elephant tusks he'd gotten from the king of Siam. And he never kept a present before. He wrote a letter to Congress. He said, can I keep this? And Congress said, you're doing a great job, Honest Abe, and we love you, but no, you can't keep it. Turn it over to the Department of State. Like, that's the right way to do it. Every other president has come to Congress to ask whether they can keep one of these foreign gifts from a government or a king or a prince. And the President Trump should be no different. He's got to come to us too. And if not, we'll just have to requisition it and confiscate it.
And here's another thing, Ron. If it's taking like 4 or 5 years to convert two 747-8s into, Air Force One military quality, how does he fast track an identical 747-8 to be suitable for Air Force One capability in just a few months? Like, how is that possible? What is missing from that jet? So this question has been asked to the Pentagon, and they've basically said, well, it'll be used for certain things and not other things. I mean, it doesn't have air-to-air refueling like the original Air Force One. It probably doesn't have the reinforced, the protective skin that they're having to, add to the two Russian planes. And if Trump had left that contract alone, the original Boeing contract, and not meddled with it, the planes would have been ready by now, and he could be flying in them. But he was the one that got in the way of himself.
Right. And so supposedly the maiden flight of this, where Trump is going to fly in this for the first time, because he hasn't yet. It is now the Air Force One. But he's flown in the other one so far. Supposedly the maiden flight is going to be on July 3rd, where he is going to fly it to South Dakota, to Mount Rushmore.
Yes.
It's supposed to be for, the America 250, one of their celebration type deals. And I'm going to make you a prediction right now that the speech that he gives in front of Mount Rushmore, he'll have the Qatari jet in the backdrop with the Mount Rushmore monument. And in his speech, he is going to call for himself to be added to the monument.
Back there.
Yeah. He's going to say, I should be up there, and we're going to make this happen.
I think you may be right. I would also like to add a prediction too, and that is that he will sign an executive order that says that he is allowed to keep the airplane.
Yeah, that's not enforceable, but
nor half of his executive orders anyway.
If a Democratic Congress or the next Democratic president is successful in preventing him from acquiring this plane, keeping this plane, and assuming he's still alive and, hasn't completely lost his mind and isn't in an assisted living facility, he will lose his mind worse than any other thing that he has ever lost his mind about, ever.
Yeah.
More than the indictment, more than the arrests, more than January 6th, losing the election. This will cause, if he hasn't already completely come unglued and lost his marbles by then, this will be the final nail in the coffin of his sanity.
Well, because he loves the planes as much as construction. These
More
are
than
his
anything.
two hobbies.
When his name is taken off all of this stuff in D.C. that he's building, when the arch is knocked down, I don't know that a Democratic president will have the guts to do something about the ballroom. But, a lot of these monuments and things with his name on them are going to come off. That's going to cause him to lose his mind more than anything else.
Yeah.
But jet,
yes,
I can't think of anything more important to him than this jet.
He's just so weird. It's just the weirdness is the thing that's so interesting. I really hope that, history teaches us that how compromised humans can be. And that, we take our humanity and our civility and our normalcy for granted. But the people like Trump who have this weird childhood and weird wiring and a very different kind of physiological makeup can be so different versions of a human being. He shares no qualities with 99% of the people in this country.
No, he shares qualities with a lot of people in prison, though. You know, a lot of sociopaths that are in maximum security prisons.
Right. And that's what the psychiatrists tell us who deal with these people all the time. They're like, you can dance around the subject, but we work with these people and we know exactly who Trump is. I mean, this is what, Dr. Bandy Lee's been saying. All right, let's talk about the success that Zoran Mamdani's support of candidates has had for Democrats, because the Mamdani effect, I think, is, I've actually been referencing it quite a lot in interviews and things recently. I actually think it goes much further than just him being the mayor of New York.
Yeah. I posted a month ago on social media a prediction that in the future, after this election cycle, that the Mamdani endorsement might be the most sought after endorsement for Democratic candidates around the country. Maybe not necessarily like Democrats running in rural Tennessee or something, but I think California, Philadelphia, Michigan, right now, those candidates haven't sought a Mamdani endorsement. His endorsements have primarily been limited to the New York elections. But as we saw, every candidate that he endorsed won big. I think something like 12 Democratic incumbents were voted out of office by Democrats. They were replaced by newer, younger candidates in many cases. And so I hear a lot of the Democratic establishment. I heard Jeffries, I heard several others talk about the fact that this is limited to New York. This is a New York thing, that the Mamdani effect will not work outside of New York. And I don't agree with that at all. I think Mamdani is going to be a kingmaker across the country in a lot of Democratic primaries in the future.
Yeah. Well, we have the same thing in England at the moment with this new guy who's weirdly is the mayor of Manchester coming in to be the prime minister. Very left-leaning. And it is going to fend off the far right by leaning into the left, because Keir Starmer was way too, down the middle. And my advice to Democrats, as we've been speaking on this program over the last few months, is lean in to the progressive side of politics. Don't shy away from the wokeness. Go woke. And I honestly think that is where the votes are now.
Because you hear so much from Democratic voters who are a little frustrated that they don't want the party simply to be anti-Trump.
Yeah.
And the reality is, what you hear mostly from a lot of centrist Democrats is anti-Trump stuff.
Yeah.
And you don't hear a lot of policy stuff from that part of the party, which I think is regrettable, but reality. All the ideas are coming from the progressives.
Yes.
And the new ideas. And so that's why, particularly, it was young voters in New York. Right. Young voters were overwhelmingly went for the Mamdani endorsed candidates.
Let's see what Hakeem Jeffrey has had to say.
I don't think we're on opposite pages. You can ask him whether he thinks we're on opposite pages. He doesn't believe we're on opposite pages. There are multiple races that I've gotten involved in supporting House Democratic incumbents, which is what I have done as leader and will continue to do. So with respect to races where he may have endorsed a different candidate, we have agreed to strongly disagree, and we put it into the hands of the people of New York to decide what's the best path forward.
Is he making a mistake by trying to point the caucus so sharply to the left?
No, that's a question you have to direct to him. There are 215 members of the House Democratic Caucus. A handful of primaries that go in one direction or the other in a given state or two aren't going to reshape who we are as House Democrats. As House Democrats, we've been very clear. What brings us together is a focus on driving down the high cost of living, fixing our broken healthcare system, and cleaning up corruption. Thank you, everyone.
I always feel like I'm watching Hamilton when he talks. He manages to make everything rhyme. There is a serious point here about what you were just saying with the Democrats standing for something I'm suggesting they lean left, but actually, you don't need to brand it that way. You know, there is a way to brand things for people where you just talk about them like they're normal, things that are normal. For Mamdani in New York to offer free bus travel to him was normal, and childcare was normal. And rather than it being branded as a very kind of extreme, progressive, socialist policy, that actually it's just necessary, and everybody therefore can buy into it.
He branded it as affordability,
Yeah.
right? And that label resonated. You know, I hear the spin a lot from people who oppose these candidates that this is all about Israel and anti-Semitism. Especially you're hearing that theme on Fox and from the Republicans that the Democratic Party is now an anti-Semitic party and it's hostile to Jews, it's hostile to Israel, and there needs to be. We heard that from Michael Cohen. We heard that from a few other Democrats as well. Moskowitz, sort of made some allusions to it as well, and a few others. And I think that that's totally misreading the situation. I mean, they're citing like that Dan Goldman loss. Well, look, Dan Goldman ran in a district with a lot of Jewish voters, and the guy who beat him is Jewish. Yes. The difference is that Goldman, for the most part, supported Israel and the Israeli government response in Gaza, and his Jewish opponent strongly opposed it. And I think you see that with like a John Ossoff as well, who's very much anti-Netanyahu, anti the current Israeli government, but is Jewish. Yeah. So there is this path. So I don't see this as being anti-Semitic, that these particular candidates are anti-Semitic. They're anti-Netanyahu. They're anti the current Israeli government. They're anti-genocide.
Yes.
And so I think that that's the distinction. So I think there's this fear that like, oh, Jews are going to leave the Democratic Party to do what? Support Donald Trump and MAGA? I mean, I don't see that happening.
Well, a lot of Jews do support Donald Trump and MAGA. We should be clear about that.
Yeah.
But it's a bit like saying that Donald Trump represents all Americans with the way that he behaves. You know, Netanyahu does not represent all Israelis. And you know, Trump and Netanyahu have a lot in common. They're both fraudsters, and they're kind of trying to stay out of prison. Let's see what John Fetterman had to say, though.
All right, let me ask this. Why the deep hatred for Israel? Why?
Yeah, because I mean, if you have such contempt for Israel, I mean, of course, you're also anti-American and you're anti-Western civilization, and you're seem anti-capitalism and the American way of life. I mean, now they're all socialists, of course, and now there's communists and now Marxists, and now they're proud of this. And now, of course, we have P. Hustle in Maine. That's another one. He's a self-avowed, communist too. Now that's not even looked down on and a significant part of the Democratic Party right now.
Yeah, I mean,
he can't even speak in coherent.
He's on another planet.
He's all over the. He's on Fox every single day.
Yes.
I mean, they bring him on every day. And all he does is criticize Democrats.
Didn't he vote against war powers?
What an asinine statement. If you're against Israel, in other words, if you're against Netanyahu, you're anti-American. And then he says you're anti-capitalist. I mean, what the hell does those two things have to do with each other?
Yeah.
And then he brings up Graham Plattner, who he calls P. Hustle. I mean, that guy's, it's going to be one of the happiest days of my life in politics when his ass is out of the Senate. I can't wait until the Democratic primary. I hope he runs. I don't think he is going to run. I predicted for a long time he's not running, and that's why he's saying all this crazy shit. But I hope he does run, because he's going to get destroyed.
Am I right in saying he's the only Democrat that voted against the War Powers Act the other day?
Yeah, he's the only one.
Yeah,
Correct.
Lovely. Okay, we have to finish, but I've got one more thing. We have time for one more, just one more thing, like Lieutenant Colombo might say. And this is this spat between Trump and the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, which I think is a fabulous little story. The backstory to it, as you know, is that back at the G7, Trump claimed that she wanted or begged him to have a photo taken together, and that they wanted to. And Trump was like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to do it, but I don't have to do it, but I'm going to do it," and just push this thing about her begging him for it, and she wasn't having any of this. So let's see what he wrote, because this is his Truth Social post. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni asked over and over for a picture with me during the G7 meeting in France. She is doing poorly in Italy with her level of popularity, possibly because she turned down the United States of America, a country that truly loves and protects Italy, when it came to denying Iran from obtaining or developing a nuclear weapon. But so did NATO, for that matter, he says. She wouldn't even let us use Italy's landing strips or runways, a great logistical inconvenience, and this despite the fact that the US contributes hundreds of billions of dollars a year, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that is his attitude towards her. She, though, wasn't shy and decided to make a social media post on camera, setting the record straight. Here it is in Italian with the translation.
So certain things deserve an immediate response. Donald Trump's statements are completely made up. I am frankly stunned. I don't know why the President of the United States behaves this way with his own allies. It's not the first time this has happened, after all. I can only say it's a shame. He doesn't show the same determination with the enemies of the West, with the enemies of the United States, with leaders with whom instead he proves to be much more accommodating. But he must remember one thing. Italy and I never beg.
Now, she's a kind of far-right nationalist character anyway. I mean, she ain't no lefty. And yet this proves that, she is standing up for herself and for her country, and Trump is arguing with the wrong person.
I think, what mystified her and blew her away was how unnecessary this was.
Yes.
That he just was doing an interview about after the G7 summit. I don't even know who this, I think it was maybe with Jonathan Karl or something. It was a phone interview.
Right.
And he went out of his way to take a shot at her and make up this lie and claim that she begged him for a photo because her popularity was down in Italy and she was looking for a boost in her approval rating by getting a photo with Trump would help her with the Italians. People in America don't understand.
Yeah.
This caused an absolute uproar in Italy, that statement by Trump.
Mm-hmm.
The Italian media, the Italian people were absolutely furious. So, and you can see Meloni is furious as well.
Yeah.
There was absolutely no need for this statement. It was only made because Donald Trump continues to be annoyed that Italy wouldn't let the U.S. use their air bases to bomb Iran.
Yeah.
And so he went out of his way to take a shot at her. Now that Orban is gone, probably the most pro-Trump leader in Europe at this point.
Yeah.
And he burns his bridges with her.
Well, that's who he is.
Italian people for absolutely no reason, and creates more hostility in a European country, an important European country, against the United States and Americans. Just absolute insanity. And you could see how upset she was.
Yeah. Well, there wasn't just no reason to start that spat. There was also no reason to start a war with Iran. There was no reason to dig up the reflecting pool or burn down the east wing of the White House. You could argue that everything he touches turns to shit. We have to finish on that beautiful note, but I'm grateful to you, as always, for this conversation. Don't forget to download the audio podcast that drops later tonight. Come back, watch the show again, share it, comment down below, check out our sponsor down there too, and you can find us here next week, Wednesday at the same time. Thanks a lot, Ron.
All right. See you next week, everyone.